Nick, I like many of Mel Brooks' movies, I rented this one not realizing it was a straight comedy. It was New Year's Eve, and I remember telling my parents.
Appreciate that too. Yeah.
I remember telling my parents I don't really want to watch the Dick Clark New Year's Rockin' Eve thing. I'm kind of past that right now, and I think I was like 9 years old, and I was just looking for something to watch. And I'd been a fan of Star Wars, of course. I've been a fan of Star Wars since I was like 4. But
this is funny because I was actually roughly the same age when I went to see this in the theater. I was like 9 years old.
And it's just kind of that level of Mel Brooks has said this too, that like when he has gotten approached by younger people who were born after the movie came out, they don't talk about it like it's a parody. They talk about it like it's a fun space adventure, which is a unique kind of a way to view this film, because I still see the parody of it, but like, people have not connected with the parody.
I know. Well, you can almost fit it into the world as parody of, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So today, we are finishing off our Mel Brooks month with Spaceballs, the movie.
This is Spaceballs, the episode.
Spaceballs, the episode. Kyle and Goethe, or Kyle and Nick on film. The show. In this sci-fi farce, the villainous Spaceballs, led by Dark Helmet and President Scroob, have run out of precious air and plan to kidnap the Druish princess Vespa in order to force the planet of Druidia to give up their fresh air. Have no fear, as the king has hired the cunning star pilot Lone Star and his sidekick Barf to rescue the princess and save planet Druidia. Along the way, they meet the Dinks, learn about the ancient magic called the Schwartz, and discover the benefits of merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
Well, welcome back to the show. If you're new, thanks, and I hope you're listening, and I hope you appreciate the content. To the new subscribers, check out the Patreon as well. We got some great options, and you get to tell us what to do, and you get to be part of the team, and you get to see more of the episodes as we develop. And what the hell are you?
Spaceballs, the face mask.
Where'd you find
Just a reminder, everyone, to please wear your masks out and about. You gotta be safe with each other while we're getting.
Is that really real? Is that like made by Mel Brooks or something?
I don't know who actually made it.
He's got to be making money out of it, because that's Mel Brooks. He would have to be making money out of it. I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast.
I'm Kyle Goethe from GoetheFilmReviews.com, and today we are talking Spaceballs, the movie.
I hated this movie when I saw it in theaters. I really did. And it's because it was making fun of something that I thoroughly enjoy. And that is why. I do like the jokes. I like the, but it's like, oh, I used to play with my action figures, and now you're making fun of that too?
No, sir, I didn't see you playing with your dolls again.
And then you got the accountant from Ghostbusters to really drive it in. You're really just going to give it to me, aren't you? So I, as a kid, I didn't appreciate that you're making a parody because you love this stuff.
Well, again, I've said it all month long, and I consistently tweet it out because it's one of my favorite quotes. Mel Brooks said, in order to parody something, you have to love it. Yeah. And he said he did love Star Wars, and he loved the space genre. He loved those serials. He was very connected to the idea of like the serial adventure. And it was, when he made Spaceballs, he was concerned that George Lucas was not going to be in on the joke, because he had kind of heard that, George Lucas kept Star Wars very much as his, protected baby.
Yeah.
So he sent him a screenplay, and Lucas came back and said he loved the movie and said he would help him out in any way he could, on one exception: there could be no merchandising.
If you tell Mel Brooks not to do something, what the hell do you think he's going to do?
Yeah, I mean, he followed the rules to what I know, but he did kind of like have to have some fun with it. And what I think is great is, Lucas did actually help. Like, this movie was worked around with Skywalker's sound. Lucas helped to contribute to, at the time, the largest blue screen in a shooting setting. It was the largest blue screen, was the one that was outside of Spaceball 1, where our kind of main villains are at. It broke a rule in that way. And then he also they even gave like old footage from Star Wars. So when all of the characters are evacuating the Mega Maid, those the ships that are shooting off the
pods,
escape pods that are going off, are actually like original attempts at doing the escape pod scenes from Star Wars. They were just rejected in favor of a different version. So that's actual footage that was going to be used in Star Wars that just ended up not in the movie. And so he gave that over, and it makes something that looks so much more expensive than it is. Because this movie was very low budget in some ways.
But it makes fun of the whole sci-fi universe, and not just concentrating on Star Wars, because a lot of the music is referenced in Jaws. I mean, the whole throbbing music. You got the little Jawas who whistle the music from Bridge over River Kwai.
Yep.
And then you have kind of the parody of Wizard of Oz where they meet yogurt.
Yeah.
So it's a very much like,
it's again like when we talked about Young Frankenstein, we talked about how it was very much a parody of Frankenstein in so much, and the universal kind of a world.
Yeah.
And this one, you could argue that it was making fun of Star Wars, but really it is again a send up of the science fiction fantasy realm, in that they get to have fun, like Druidia as a planet.
It's almost like Princess Bride.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of Princess Bride or Willow and things like that, where it's like that like low fantasy of like, monsters and swords and that kind of stuff. But then you also get the high fantasy science fiction of it all with things like the Schwartz and the swords that come out of the rings. And like, again, it's all those elements that I think are send up in a love letter to science fiction and fantasy films without actually having to go there.
Yeah. And also it features the Wilhelm scream. So it's one of those that features the very famous Wilhelm scream in the movie. They actually had to put it in there. Yeah. If you didn't know, in the 80s, there was a popular commercial gag video guy named Max Headroom. You can definitely Google it.
Matt Frewer.
And they used that. Rudy DeLuca, who was the...
Oh, that's right.
The crazy guy from Life Stinks. And here he's in the makeup of Max Headroom. And it's a play of the 80s of the Max Headroom. And that's why he does the tilt, because it's a glitch when Max Headroom speaks. And also that's when the whole franchise Pizza Hut became popular in the 80s. So there's a lot of 80s. Joan Rivers had her own TV show. And when she had guests come on, the first thing she said was, "Can we talk?" So when she's approaching Daphne Zuniga, "Can we talk?" It's almost a gag of her own TV show as well.
Yeah, the film feels a little bit more a product of its time than the timeless other films, but at the same, and maybe that's why the parody doesn't work as well for people that didn't kind of invest themselves in 80s culture. Like, even though I was born in the 90s, I have invested myself in 80s culture. I should have been born in the 80s because all of, like, I remember joking with my uncle as a kid that, like, my iPod was 98% 1980s or something like that. It was an insane amount of music that was before I was born. The movies that I love are from the 80s and the 70s. I read books from the 80s. Like, it's all that kind of stuff where it's like I'm ingrained in that time period, and maybe that's why I get the parody a little bit more, but it doesn't really translate to younger people who just find it to be a rollicking sci-fi adventure. And that's actually one of the things George Lucas said. He said, if you took all the comedy bits out of this movie, you'd have yourself a pretty darn good sci-fi movie too. Yeah. And that was a great compliment. Mel Brooks said was one of the best compliments of his career.
And also, we'll talk about, like, not only that, because I can always forget the ending. They make fun of Planet of the Apes. Because I always like, that's a Star Wars parody, but at the end you have Planet of the Apes. And I think you have Michael York playing one of the Planet of the Apes. But it's the exact same costuming for Planet of the Apes. Right.
It's funny, because Michael York voices one of the apes.
There goes
and
the
then,
world.
I think if I'm right, I think Phil Hartman voices the Dinks. Like, he voices one of the Dinks. That's going through there too. So there's kind of that, like, invisible level. You even get Dom DeLuise voicing Pizza the Hut.
Yeah, he was Pizza the Hut.
He wasn't inside the suit. They actually had, like, someone working the pieces of the suit. And what's funny is that suit actually started smoking and burst into flame at one point. Like, after they'd finished doing the shot, they were like, all right, let's pull it back and we'll do it again. And they heard coming from the Pizza the Hut suit, we're going to smoke. And, like, he was letting them know, like, there's smoke coming in this thing. And apparently, I think it had started coming in while they were doing the scene. And they didn't want to ruin it, the actor that was in there. But then as soon as they yelled cut, he was like, get me out of here. So they didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to use Pizza the Hut. And I'm thinking that's why he doesn't make a reprisal at the end of the film. Is that the suit maybe didn't survive, is my theory.
No, a TV announcer is a very famous person, Jack Riley, who he's a lot of character actors from the 80s, and you can kind of look him up as well. Yep. And you have Leslie Beavis, who is, she's the intercom woman.
Oh, okay.
And everybody who came out to see this would know her from soap opera. So she was on The Young and Restless, and she played these very seductive pieces. That's why a lot of her jokes are kind of almost sexual.
Yeah, that's fair. Well,
because she played like a very sexual being in her soap opera and stuff like that.
You mentioned Jack Riley, and it's kind of funny. Like, whenever I don't see Jack Riley in other roles, I hear him.
Yes.
I connect Jack Riley because he's the voice of Stu Pickles, the dad from the Rugrats.
What?
Yeah. So I remember that sound.
Hear
I'm
that.
like, that's him.
Okay.
And it's also something where he appeared in, I think, one of my favorite bad movies, which was Chud 2, Bud the Chud. It's a terrible 80s sequel, but I absolutely adore it. He plays
I didn't know Chud had a sequel.
Oh, yeah, we may have to do that one.
Oh my God.
But Bud the Chud, he appears in that movie too, and like when I heard him, I was like, that's Stu Pickles. So it's funny that like I never see Jack Riley. He's done up in some makeup. You never see Jack Riley. I hear him.
He's done up very well too in this one, right? When I saw this as a movie, I recognized Daphne as Nega, and I think he even screamed, "That's the woman from the horror movie Initiation." So if you haven't seen Initiation, it's another one of those great slasher movies from the 80s that kind of cemented the whole slasher movies. But as a kid, that's how I recognized her. I go, that's the girl from The Initiation. She almost had a very parallel career with Jennifer Connelly. I think they both auditioned for the same kind of movies. I think even Daphne's auditioned for The Labyrinth, and it came down between her and Jennifer Connelly.
Yep. And Zuniga's funny because she actually, she said this many times that she wasn't really a fan of Mel Brooks's like comedy, like the way that he worked at the parody. She just didn't kind of connect with it very well. And she said it wasn't until she was working on this film that she kind of got it. That she like figured out who Mel Brooks was as an entertainer, and she saw this warm, caring person who again like made fun of things for two different reasons. He either made fun of things that were evil, like Hitler in The Producers, or he made fun of things that he cared about. And it was kind of that thing where like the two ends of the spectrum for him. He made fun of things he hated and things he loved. And that she kind of understood his ability to create comedy from that. And I think that turned her into a Brooksite. So we should all have gotten a chance to work with Mel Brooks so that we can appreciate him more as a director.
I went to school with a kid with the last name Schwartz, and this movie came out. And guess what?
Poor kid.
Any kid with the last name Schwartz when this came out. Oh my God.
It's okay. My name is Kyle, and I was in middle school when the South Park movie came out. So Kyle's Mom is a song that came out. Didn't really help me.
Oh, when Conan O'Brien was a teenager when Conan the Barbarian came out, and all the bullies were like, "What are you talking about? Your name's Conan. Come on, man."
Maybe you should feel bad for us. But yeah, I like the Schwartz element too. And I think the funny thing about Yogurt as a character is, again, like Mel Brooks said he loved just playing the character.
I'm just playing.
But he also, he hated playing the character at the same time because he actually had allergic reactions to the makeup. And he had to walk around on his knees, which actually gave him some like knee damage that he still says he could phantom feel for years afterwards. But the character of Yogurt is funny in that he almost has a purpose because of George Lucas's request not to have merchandising. I love the idea of like, we can't actually release merchandising for this film due to our like agreement we made. So we're going to make a whole moment about how like these like machinist movie studios don't even want to make movies, they want to make merchandise.
Which always, started Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money. They're going to really make that one, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that's funny that, like, the merchandise of it all makes sense in that we've had plenty of movies that have been adjusted from R ratings to PG-13 by a studio who just wants it to be more accessible so they can make money. And it's like you're caring less about the art. And I get the studio decision of we've got to make our money back.
No, that's the whole story of Batman Returns. It was too horrific to sell to children.
And that's why we got Batman Forever. And so like if you see all these elements of like we as a studio, in hindsight, these movies have a longer lasting quality if they're released the way that they were supposed to be and intended to be. Whereas the studio wants to make the money on the merchandise right now. And I love the whole thing about the Spaceballs, the breakfast cereal, Spaceballs, the flamethrower. The kids love it.
Have you made your Spaceballs the Halloween lantern? People have done that. You carve just Spaceballs the lantern.
Oh, that's great.
Spaceballs and pumpkin. Right?
See, there's so many great ideas that I'm not even thinking about right now.
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman,
right?
Yes.
Which he came from a lot of horror movies. I think after this, he was in Wes Craven's
Serpent and the Rainbow.
Serpent and the Rainbow, and here that's another element of somebody who's done a lot of horror movies, and here he's going to do comedy.
And what's funny about
just like Daphne,
Bill Pullman is, of course, like I remember him from Independence Day. I think that was my first introduction to Bill Pullman as like a major on-screen presence. Was the president in Independence Day. What's funny about him though is he's actually one of the few people who has ever played a serious version of a character in the movie The Grudge, and then he also played a joke version of the character in one of the Scary Movie sequels. He played the same kind of person in both films.
You really do your research. Okay.
I'm just a fan.
And we're going to play this because Jonathan Hurt's in this movie doing what he did serious in Alien.
Oh, yeah, John. And again,
I always forget that this part's in here. Yeah.
So I wanted to figure out where this came from because it's a funny scene, but it's also like so weird and out of place that they brought back the exact same actor. Like they didn't go and get Roddy McDowell when they did Planet of the Apes.
But they have somebody that looks like Sigourney Weaver. They have somebody that looks.
Yeah, and they even got they even got their token Yaphet Kotto ripoff.
I know he's got the bandana on. Right? Yeah, and I thought, is that him? Right.
But the funny thing is, so John Hurt, I forget, played Jesus in History of the World Part 1. So he actually worked with Mel Brooks, and he said, if you ever need anything at all, let me know. And so he contacted him for this scene. He was like, I don't know if it's going to work, but do you want to do this? And he was like, sure, I will help in any way I can. John Hurt said he didn't really get the joke until he saw it in the finished film because he had this like weird animatronic thing.
Right, you got to do the table thing.
It was a question of would it work, and I think that was the funny thing about it. But it's a close joke to the airplane joke of the soup or the special.
But when I saw it as a kid, this is a lot more cleaner than it was in
yes,
it's a lot more cute.
Yeah. But that line.
Then he does the foghorn leghorn act.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'll never get over that line. It's a line that permeates all the time in my head. Is oh no, not again.
And you got Jonathan Hurt to do it, man. I mean, that's like getting Robert De Niro to come on a comedy and say, "You talking to me?"
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
How are you going to navigate to do that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's another great moment, and again, showing care to all versions of space. The space horror, the sci-fi fantasy, the general love and attention given to this genre. Works consistently well, and even to a person like myself who rented this movie. Remember I said I rented Young Frankenstein and didn't get the joke of it, so I didn't really like it the first time I watched it. I rented Dracula Dead and Loving It thinking it was a horror film. I rented this film thinking it was just a straight sci-fi movie. I didn't get the Winnebago on the front cover of it as being a joke. Yeah, exactly.
Love your anus.
We break for nobody. I didn't get those jokes, and watching the movie, I'm not even sure I got the jokes watching it the first time. I just thought it was really fun.
Oh, right. And the whole park the RV. And then, hey, read the sign, no parking.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's Paul, how do you say it? One of the guards who say no parking. It's Paul, I think his name is DeCunham. He's the noisy neighbor from the Burbs.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Yeah. He looks familiar.
Who has the same size as John Candy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, John Candy in this.
Yes. An actor gone too soon that we never really got to see, but like I tell you this over and over again that John Candy is just one of those guys like Chris Farley. You wish he had lived longer because he just gave so much joy to a movie. He's so freaking funny in Spaceballs, and even too the thing is he wanted to do the character of Barf in an actual animatronic like mask and cover up. Right, and Mel Brooks was like, they didn't come to see Barf, they came to see John Candy. Right. And so you had to compromise. I'll give you this little like thing, and I'll give you the animatronic ears.
Like the elbow dog from the commercials from the 80s. We'll just put the dog from Little Rascals. Just put a circle in there.
And he's so lovingly joyful, even in his most groan-worthy moments. I don't know if I can get through a watching of this movie when he's calling for Barf, and he's like, always when I'm eating. Ever since I was 9 years old, I would always answer when he said that. I'd be like, you're always eating. I say it like in this way of like eye-rollingly love for the character and the performance he puts in. He's such a joy to be.
He had to enjoy having a tail and just beat the crap out of everybody on set with it.
Yeah, and he came up with a lot of that stuff too, where he was like, I'll just whip him a bunch of times. And the joke where it goes up the woman's skirt and she's like, watch where you're sticking that thing. He's like, it's got a mind of its own. Like, I love that he was able to take a character that really didn't have a lot going for him. In terms of, really, when you think about all the jokes that are best jokes of Barf, they all seem to have come from John Candy. So he really gives all to the film.
Because he did this, and then after a couple months, it comes out Trains, Planes, and Automobiles, and then he had the big summer hit, The Great Outdoors. So he was hitting home runs in the late 80s.
Yeah, he was really he was absolutely on fire. And that, of course, started this John Hughes lifetime too of Planes, Trains, Automobiles, and then his cameo in Home Alone and Uncle Buck, and he just really hit it and went for it. Before this, I try to think of where else did John Candy really explode in that way, and I can really only think of his small character in Little Shop of Horrors, where he just
everybody had a little small even Bill Murray's bit in Little Shop of Horrors. But yeah, I think right. I still had the same reaction because I was mad because you're making fun of something that I really enjoyed. I didn't understand that you are making fun of it because you enjoy it as well.
Yeah. And without Spaceballs, we probably wouldn't have. I don't think we'd have a level of Star Wars care that we do today. I think it did help elevate Star Wars itself.
I think you're right.
But we also
it comes 3 years.
have.
Well, it's 4 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. we wouldn't have things like Robot Chicken Star Wars. We wouldn't have things like The Family Guy, It's a Trap, and Blue Harvest joke films where they kind of send up and made fun of the genre. We wouldn't see Star Wars in a funny way as much as we do. But I never once had a moment in Star Wars that was ruined by the joke.
No.
You know, and I think that comes down to the care of it. We're not going to ruin the experience of watching Star Wars. What's funny is, though, I do wish that they actually make that Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money, and have some fun with the prequels and sequels that we
they
because, man,
should.
that would be so much fun to see. I know Brooks is in his like mid-90s right now, but gosh, I would love to see that more so than, I don't know if you were even aware of this, there was an animated series. It aired, I can't remember if it was Bravo or Showtime or something like that, and the first couple episodes was basically a retelling of the movie. It's not a great animated series. Mel Brooks lent his voice to it, and I think he let some other people kind of
See, if you combine like Heavy Metal's animation film and Spaceballs, I think it would work.
This was a level of animation that just did not work. The animation wasn't great. The jokes didn't land. And it just kind of made you go, "Why won't you give me my sequel?"
I know somebody who actually attached wings to their Winnebago after this movie came out, and it was in the trailer park. I really, yeah.
I mean, I guess you could play off as an awning.
But that was like paper mache wings to their RV at the trailer park. I'm not going to mention the person, but I know they actually did it. They attached wings to their Winnebago. That's the exact model of this Winnebago that's in the movie, right? So,
I think, Spaceballs, if it's got one thing that I think people don't love about it, it's that perhaps the jokes hit a level of overgrown worthy, where they're kind of like, you kind of know they're bad jokes, but you still laugh at them. Like the combing the desert thing is pretty on the nose.
That's the famous
one. The other one I always think of is Stephen Tobolowsky's cameo, where he catches the stunt doubles.
Yeah.
And I think like those moments, I can see why people watching the movie might groan at that stuff.
Which Stephen's playing almost the stunt double for George Weiler's Colonel Sanders. Almost done, right?
You know, you seem to have made a mistake. And I like that they have those jokes, and I groan at them too, but I think, like we said with some of the groan-worthy stuff in Mel Brooks' work, it's just as funny because it's bad, you know?
Right. A lot of comedy, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, I watched the commentary track with Mel Brooks where he consistently called out the bad jokes in the movie every time, and he was like, I only get like 3 bad jokes per movie, and then at that point he hit like 12, and he was like, maybe I overstepped my bounds on this one, like... I think that might be maybe its detriment, is that people who are looking for the parody levels of Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein don't see them in the same way in Spaceballs.
Yeah.
But I find it more endearing for that.
Yeah, when take away, because I grew up with Young Frankenstein, I grew up with high anxiety and all that stuff, and you expected that everything's going to be a home run. Mm-hmm. But here they don't mind picking the low hanging fruit. Yes. They're going to go for the low all the time in this movie, and I think that's part of the staple of Mel Brooks. We can do highbrow comedy, or we can make fun of my butt.
Yeah, it was kind of that thing that we had heard when Ebert said he was in the elevator with Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft and some other person after the producers, and the person called out his ability to go too low and too vulgar, and he was like, we went past vulgar. Like, it was kind of that thing where he's going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and hopefully he puts enough jokes in there that even if 10% of them work, the movie's still funny. Yeah. And I think he's very successful in that way. I watched this movie with a lot of nostalgic love.
Right, and especially like Rick Moranis, who doesn't really known for carrying a movie, but here I think he's the central character. Like,
if his character doesn't work, the movie doesn't work.
Oh, of course, he's short and small, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Darth Vader is tall and powerful, he's gonna be short and weakly. He's gonna wear a tie.
Yeah. Well, and I like that he actually put a costume designer for the film to intentionally do what they thought would be not an over the top, but like just to the level of the envelope being pushed level of costuming. Where like the costumer designed dark helmet, we've got to make his helmet big, and I like that Rick Moranis requested, can I have a helmet that goes up and down like this so that I can really like showcase. And then he was the one who came up with the idea of doing the voice, like the Lone Star when he's got it down, and then I don't get it. Like I love that he kind of plays with that too.
Right, yeah.
And I think my favorite bit in the whole movie is You're Looking at Now. It's the classic like who's
on right, because I remember seeing it in the theater and watching like, wait, that's like my VHS collection at home, right?
And what's great too, I just noticed
it plays on his Mel Brooks narcissism.
Yeah, they pull it up and he goes past all the Mel Brooks movies. But did you know the level beneath that has all the Rocky sequels that they joke about? If you look at the clip, there's like Rocky like 1 through like 30
Yeah.
on that lower shelf because they talk about Rocky 5,000.
1,000.
You know, and
Jack Rabbit 5.
I can't believe that they actually put that in the movie. I never noticed that until this time watching it. But the scene is great in so many ways where it's like, only in a science fiction movie could we have a device that shows you the movie before it's done.
Right. And it makes me want to, I don't know, have you seen Strange Brew?
I have not seen
Watching Rick Moranis carry, we have to critique eventually Strange Brew because I think this movie's only about 5 years from Strange Brew, but it looks like it's just light years away from it.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the charm of the movie, though, is like Rick Moranis, he had a horrible tragedy that caused him to step away from acting and focus on his ability.
I think he only did one movie after this.
And John Candy we lost too soon, so it kind of makes a movie like Spaceballs really special in that it's such a rare appearance from these actors that are just so beloved and so underseen in their careers.
And both can come from Canada.
And both come from Canada. See, they're good old boys from there. We know them. We're from Minnesota.
So, have you seen Spaceballs, the movie?
Yes. Let us know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this film. Where do you place it in your overall Mel Brooks hierarchy? We're coming to the
I think it's the middle for me.
I think it's not as like well crafted as some of the top tier, but it also is consistently funny, which is not something that the lower tier has. The lower tier kind of has things like it's funny, it's good, it's not bad.
Right.
This movie does make me laugh throughout the whole time. It does put a smile on my face.
I agree with that. It is consistently funny, even though like producers, that first part is hilarious. Then you got the down and you kind of a little bit up.
Yeah. So we want to know your thoughts on that as well. Go ahead and check out the film. I think it's streaming on Hulu right now, and you can check it out and tell us your thoughts on Spaceballs down below. Don't forget too, you can like, comment, subscribe, check out that Patreon for more information right there. We really appreciate everybody who comes to join us. I love seeing when we get new subscribers because that just means more friendly faces to interact with when we do these episodes. Before we end off here, Nick, I got to ask. We've talked about Mel Brooks. I think, have you seen every single one of his films at this point?
Yep.
What would you place as your favorite now that we're ending the month off?
Right now, it's still Young Frankenstein. It's going to be automatic.
Okay, there you go. I think I got to agree with you. Young Frankenstein, I think, is the most consistently watchable, and I think the overall best made Mel Brooks movie. It's always that fight between Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein.
And both came out at the same time.
But I think Blazing Saddles, like I said, like in certain moods, not all the jokes land as well. But Young Frankenstein, I think, is the best made movie, even if Blazing Saddles is probably the most important movie he
because it starts right away and it doesn't let up.
Yep, exactly. So let us know in the comments down below as well, since we're finishing off this month. What's your favorite Mel Brooks movie? Let us know. We are really interested in seeing.
I'm looking for somebody that says high anxiety. Right.
I'm looking for somebody that says Dracula Dead and Loving. Because you know what? It's a good movie and it deserves to be seen. But anyway, thank you guys for joining us. Once again, my name is Kyle Goethe. You can find all my film reviews on goatfilmreviews.com.
I'm Nick for the St. Paul Filmcast, a podcast where you can find anywhere you find podcasts.
Yep. We'll see you guys next time.
May the Schwartz
be with you.